Hello and welcome to your Friday Spark. I'm Amanda Gregg and I am excited to be here. Each Friday, I bring you just a little bit of message to move further, either if you are in one of my programs, to move further with the things that we've talked about in the last few weeks, or if you're not in my programs, just being able to practice some of the things that are top of mind for me, but also really important for people to be able to work with. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about our story, and this is a continued conversation because we've already talked a little bit about our story. We can either have a story that we've been telling ourselves for a really long time. It could go around the fact that whatever may have happened to us in the past, or different things that have gone on for us. Or it could be that it is around a specific circumstance and we start telling ourselves a story around that. And what we talked about before is actually taking time to notice this story and then be able to rewrite that story and just restate it. So I had given an example, for instance, when I think about when I started my business, that it started off as we entered into the COVID-19 and that it has been difficult. And that's the story that I've been telling myself. But what I realized is that I actually can change that story and say that it is a huge opportunity for me to really step back and be able to create in the direction that I really want to go. And I have some time to really work on some of the pieces that I may not have time if I were jumping right in. So that is just the restating of the story. What I want to bring in today is that all of us have a side of us that is the light side of us. And then we also have the dark side of us. And I don't know if you've ever talked or been through anything or read about anything when we talk about the shadow. So that's the shadow of who we are and how we operate. And these shadows may have come from when we were younger or as we've experienced different things in our lives, and the shadow of ourselves and what it really brings to the conversation. So I've been reading a book lately that is all about the shadow and how to really embrace that rather than push it down or try to ignore it. Because when we actually try to ignore it, it actually shows up a lot more in the things that are surrounding us and what's going on in our life. So one thing that I want to say from this book that has really been a huge message for me, and I hope that it resonates for you, is that having is evidence of wanting. And so if you think about that and all of the things that you have that surround you, may it be material, relationships, how your life looks, how much money you bring in, or anything of that nature, that you can really see that it was something that you have been wanting. Now, this talks about either wanting it from a conscious level or wanting it from an unconscious level. And I don't know if any of you have ever done anything around manifesting, but a lot of manifesting really goes off of the what we want consciously. And we can have the language around that and be able to say that consistently every day. But what I've found is that if you don't have that language on a consistent basis, or if your wanting is coming from an unconscious part of you, which is actually where the shadow lives, that then you will see that in front of you and wonder why you are not able to manifest what you want consciously. So ultimately, as you start to look at your story and as you start to really look at the shadow parts of you, then you can really see that there are definitely things that have showed up in your life that are those unconscious pieces, that are those pieces that continuously happen. And maybe it's a pattern that keeps on happening. So if you start to look at those and really dive a little bit deeper in there, you might find that those are actually unconscious pieces of you that you actually want. And not on the level, again, that it's conscious that you want it, but again, having is evidence of wanting. So just be careful as you start to look at this and really, really, really going a little bit deeper into your story. Now, as you go into your story, we talk a lot about not coming from it at the angle of your mind. So being able to actually feel it. So in this book, it talks a lot about when you're looking at the shadow side of you to actually go into the feelings that are surrounding this and what that does for you. This book is very interesting because it talks about sometimes that pain and pleasure piece of it and what it's actually bringing us. And a lot of times, what's actually happening is that shadow side of us, it's bringing about this opportunity for a different kind of pleasure that is more like a drug, where it is actually giving us this really sideways pleasure in actually having this shadow and also denying that. So when you think about maybe there's something that your shadow is that you don't feel worthy, that you're not good enough, that you keep on doing these particular patterns, or there's something very specific that keeps coming up for you and keep coming back to that. And so as you start to look at that, that you can actually begin to see that you crave what that makes your body feel like. And it's kind of an interesting space to be in as you start to look at that, because it's that pain and pleasure piece that we can really start looking at. So with that, I just want to say that this is something that I am excited to continue to talk about. I think that as we really look at the stories that we continually tell ourselves, that we can actually dissect them and begin to really see what is happening and what our shadow side is that is actually bringing to the table. And with that manifesting, which we'll talk about a little bit later, in that why not all the time does it work? And so, really being able to embrace your shadow side actually gives you a lot more power than you will ever imagine. And so, it's definitely work to do this. It is not something that just comes out of the blue and it's automatically happening, but it's consistent work and being aware. And we talk a lot about that in the programs that I offer in awareness. And that is just the beginning of this journey that is never ending. It's a consistent practice, a consistent movement through the different things that we're feeling and seeing around us as the temperature gauge. So I hope that was a topic that you can look a little bit further into, the stories that maybe you're telling yourself right now, maybe the stories that you see yourself telling yourself as you go into your week, and just be able to be aware of that and maybe start to just look at that iceberg of what the shadow side of that is, and just be able to start embracing that, because that is part of who you are. So as always, thank you again for being here. And thank you for watching this video. I really hope it brings you something or some sort of tidbit of information that you can grasp hold of. I know when I read different books, not everything resonates with me. So if it doesn't resonate with you, don't worry. There are many more videos to jump into, not only mine, but others. And I thank you again and hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.